Hey listeners, if you like this podcast, check out our other show, The Dinner Table. Listen to archived content and in-depth interviews with insiders working with food on our website at www.fredopie.com.
Training Table serves up what we like to call a delicious menu of food traditions from athletes in youth sports to retired pros. While we all have to eat, some have culinary quirks, superstitions, and pre- and post-game rituals. That's what we capture and share around the training table. We give our audience a glimpse into athletes and their eating and exercise habits from the dining room to the locker room.
Today on the training table, Fred interviews lacrosse standout Kyle Harrison. Kyle's a former member of the U.S. national team and played his college lacrosse at Johns Hopkins. Enjoy the show.
Who was your favorite player growing up?
Growing up, so I'm from Baltimore, so I was fortunate to be around lacrosse all the time. But lacrosse wasn't my number one sport. It was basketball, soccer, and then lacrosse. So I was more of a Michael Jordan fan outside of the sport, but within the sport is my father. You know, he's the guy that taught me everything at the beginning. He's the guy that I'm looking at posters on our wall of. You know, I'm looking at pictures all over the place. So it was without a doubt my father.
So you playing catch with your dad and all that stuff early on?
Yeah, I mean, catch over at Homewood Field at Hopkins, shooting on the goal. We had a goal in our backyard. I mean, literally, most of the fundamental skills I know in the sport were taught by him at a very early age.
The conditioning drill that defines Hopkins lacrosse. I mean, for us at Syracuse, it was suicides, which I hated. What was the drill for you guys that defined the program?
I think it'd probably be two. The 300s, so 300-yard shuttles. So you go 5 back, 10 back, 50, you know, back and forth, and it adds up to 300. You try and do it under 60 seconds. Right around, like, if you're like in peak shape, you're right around the 50, 51, 52, but you try and do it under 60 seconds. And then 17s, which is 15-yard sprints back and forth 17 times under 60 seconds. And I think what I liked about that, as much as it was terrible while it was happening, but in my opinion, it was a real microcosm of like what you need to play lacrosse. You know, like we never ran 3 miles on a jog because you don't jog 3 miles in a lacrosse game. So it was 300-yard shuttles and 17.
When you ask yourself, I need to eat more of this, what is it?
You know, what I've been trying to do as I've gotten older is change my snacking habits, right? Because for the most part, I'm fortunate that my wife loves cooking, so she cooks every meal, and it's usually fresh. But when I'm out on the road bouncing around, you know, I love Snickers, I love M&Ms, I love all those different things. But as you get older, clearly, you've got to learn to control that. I've started eating granola and things like that just for snacks. And
your face didn't look real happy when you said granola.
Because I'm like forcing myself to do it, you know, and I'm trying to find healthier options to snack on.
How old are you now?
32.
When did you start seeing these changes that I have to make these changes?
You know, for me, what's been so interesting about getting older in this sport is it's not a football thing, right? It all depending on your position. Like, I don't play a position where I get hit too often, so it's not like a really bang, my muscles hurt. What I've noticed is the recovery is harder, right? That was the main thing. As you know, after I hit 30, I noticed that, like, I'll play on a Saturday night, wake up Sunday, feel like I got in a fight. You know, I just feel banged up, but I really didn't have too much physical contact. It was just the banging on my body. So the recovery process has been what I've been focusing on, just making sure you're hydrated. Granola really does help. And then there's a bunch of different things you can do to help the recovery process.
When I need to shed weight, I go running.
Right.
Don't like it, but I do it.
I never have, like, just running. Like, in fact, I hate it. I would actually use the word hate. I don't like running when it's not in a competition setting. So I play tons of pickup basketball. Like, if I've noticed that I haven't been exercising as much as possible or I haven't seen my trainers in a few weeks, I'll play pickup basketball and slowly get myself back cardio-wise and get back to making those moving, cutting motions, bumping into people, things like that. And then from there, you can kind of test yourself and see where you are and plan accordingly.
It's funny you said that because as a defenseman, that's how I would work on my game when I was playing. Because there were very few brothers that I would see on the court that would be slower or even closer to people I caught. No offense, guys, I played against.
I get what you're saying.
But if I could hang with Pookie, I was fine.
Yep, I know what you mean.
Why did you choose Hopkins?
I mean, it was no brainer. You know, I was a Baltimore kid. I grew up 7 minutes from Homewood Field. I got to shoot out there with my dad on a random Sunday. You know, that wasn't like a rarity. We could go in anytime we wanted. At the time, Hopkins was just kind of open. You know, you could go out there and use that field. When I started hearing from folks, you know, UNC was also really interesting to me because my mom's side of the family is from Durham. So there was some interest there as far as being closer to them. But at the end of the day, you know, sat down in Coach Petro's office, and that was pretty much a done deal.
What was the biggest transition for you from high school to college?
In terms of playing?
Yeah.
people were just so much better. Everybody in high school was the best player on their team, and now you get to college where all those guys were the best player on their high school team, and people still have to fall into the same roles, right? You still have to have leaders and role players and all those things. So I think that was probably the biggest shock. Like, okay, here we go. We got to figure out where this is going to shake out and what my role should be.
We'll be right back. For more interviews and related content, you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, and other podcast distributors. Also, check out our website at www.fredopie.com. Ask questions on Facebook at Frederick Douglass Opie and on Twitter at Dr. Fred D. Opie. For information about advertising on the show, please email us at fdopie@gmail.com. That's fdopie@gmail.com.
Hey listeners, if you're enjoying this episode, check out the interview Fred did with 4-time Syracuse All-American John Galloway. It's available on the Training Table show page.
I like to be as lean as possible going in. I just feel like if I'm explosive and lean, I feel like my footwork is even if it's not better, I just feel like it's better. It's more of a mental state. And the workouts I do leading into seasons, everything's lower body explosion. Right now I'm doing a lot of more in the uppers to create that, just a better strength. But it'll be mostly footwork, agility, lower body explosion.
Now we're back to the show.
The transition from college to pro.
But it's been fun, man. I've been so fortunate, so blessed to get to play this game as long as I have. And the transition from college to pro, again, was one of those eye-openers in that everybody was an All-American in college, and now you guys, 19 of you all have to dress and fall into those same roles. And so it's been a lot of fun. It's, again, as you get older, you might find yourself in different roles than you were 3 years prior, and you just have to kind of roll with it. And as long as you're a productive member of the team, it's fun.
Some guys say that I'm in better shape than I was in college.
Yeah.
Other guys say, but my lacrosse IQ, I'm not as in good a shape, but my lacrosse IQ is so much better.
Right.
Well, how do you see yourself differently from as a college player at Hopkins versus now?
As far as IQ goes, there's no discussion. Like, my IQ now is leaps and bounds better than it was in college. In college, I relied a lot on just athleticism and being able to react to things and seeing what happens. And then as far as my skill set and where I am in shape-wise, it's just different now. College, I did everything. I faced offs on the wing of face-offs. If I wasn't facing off, I played defense. I played D-midi. I played offense. It was just a lot. And now I'm more specifically an offensive midi, and I'll drop back and play defense. But in this league, there's a lot of subbing, and so you can get off sometimes. Maybe I was in a little better shape in college, or I guess it was just different shape, if that makes sense. It was what I do now. I think I'm in peak form to do what I do right now. And in college, it was a different role almost.
Mm-hmm. Kyle, you've played on 2 national teams. Mm-hmm. Are you up for a third?
You never want to close the door to anything in life, I don't think. And I'm young, and so maybe my opinion will change as I get older. But I never want to close the door on anything. I got to see where things are. My life's pretty complicated. Just had my first child, and family's growing, and there's a lot going on, so we'll see.
What's that like being a dad and also playing while you're in season?
It's a lot of fun. You guys are all parents. It's rewarding, all those things. The one thing that no one could prepare me for, my parents, the classes we went to, is the lack of sleep. Like, that was hard.
Sleep deprivation.
Man, I was a sleeper. So like 10 and a half hours a night was like what I was used to. Like, I go to bed like 8 o'clock usually.
Wow.
Yeah.
You sound like Tom Brady.
Yeah, I mean, out cold at 8 o'clock. Okay. Like, no joke. And then,
because I heard you say, let's do this interview now. I'm going to sleep for 3 hours.
Immediately. Yep. I need it. And so that has been the biggest adjustment. Like, when she's up, you got to be up. There's no just holding her. You got to be focused on what's going on. So that's been an adjustment, but a rewarding one.
Hopkins has joined the Big Ten. What do you think about that?
I don't know. I think I'm a little bit too far removed. We can have conversations about what it means for the university and that's a positive thing and being a part of the conference and those things. But for me, I loved not being in a conference. I loved being able to play everybody in the ACC and beat all them and just go bounce around and play everyone and kind of be our own thing. It's like we had that rivalry with Syracuse. We had that rivalry with Maryland. We had that rivalry with Virginia. Like, we had it because there was no conference, so you all didn't like us, we didn't like you, and that was just it, And so that was really enjoyable because it was almost like every game was a conference game. Every game had that fire to it, and I loved it. But playing in the Dome was incredible. It was so much fun.
The best place in the country to play? You don't have to tell me that.
Best place in the country besides Homewood to play, yes.
Where's the toughest, other than Syracuse, where's the toughest place for you to play? I would say for me, it was UMass, Hobart, Hopkins. What's the toughest place for you to play, and why?
We never did well at Virginia, and I don't know what the reasoning was. We just never played well there in my 4 years at Hopkins. I think we had 2 games there, lost both, and just never put it together. The whole trip was just off every year. So I'd say Virginia was probably our hardest place to play.
You could change the rules of college lacrosse. I'll give you 3 of them. What would you change?
That's a tough question. I like the shot clock idea. I'd like it to be a little more visible to the viewer on TV, just the casual viewer. Clearly, we all know that when this goes up, the clock's on, but I don't think the dude in Nebraska knows that when he sees it. So I'd like it to be a little more obvious to the viewer. And I don't know, man. I think the game looks good. I think the college game looks good. You always have the debate, and we were just talking about it last night. 2-point line in college lacrosse would be interesting, just because you got some guys that can really shoot the ball. And what's so exciting about the MLL, and it's happened a couple games this year, is that you can be down 5 with 3 minutes left, and you got a guy that can step in and shoot a couple twos. He gets 2 of them. All of a sudden, it's a 1-goal game with a minute left, and now the whole complexion changes. It gets really exciting, and viewers clearly love that. So we captured that Nebraska guy that knows nothing about the game. It certainly changed college basketball when they put the 3-point line in.
Kyle, I appreciate you taking the time. I know you have to get to sleep.
Got a nap.
Thank you.
Of course, thank you.
Before we go, we've got 2 pieces of bonus material for you today on the training table. These are short excerpts that contain life lessons about how to be on a winning team and how to read and analyze content effectively. These are lessons that could be applied on the field, in the classroom, and throughout life in general. If you enjoy these clips, check out the show entitled The Super 7 Principles for Winning. It's available on the Training Table show page, and it's 7 ideas Fred has about how to do things more effectively, not only on the sports field, but in life in general. Enjoy the clips.
So how do you change the dynamics of what's going on? It really is incumbent, too, upon the team to not only strategize beforehand, but it also is incumbent upon, if you do have one of those dominant personalities, that you have to be sensitive to your teammates. But telling the person that personality-wise, it's a little harder for me to speak up makes a big difference. Because when I know that in a group, I will intentionally ask a question, stop, pause in my head. And this is another thing you can do if you have a dominant personality, is when a question is asked, stop and count maybe the 5 Mississippi, and you're like 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. I mean, it's hard. And when you're teaching, when you ask a question and the room goes dead, it's one of the things I do. I'll stop and I'm actually counting in my head. And usually when you get to about 4 or 5, people will raise their hand. And if you're in a class or if you're in a meeting, and you can also see this when you're dealing with at a meeting, there could be some alpha personalities in that meeting, and they will speak up. And after a while, people don't feel comfortable with raising their hand or asking a question because they know that person's going to ask. So you do have to, if you're dominant in your personality, when a question is asked, maybe you need to count 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000 to give the teammates chance to respond to it. Or if you're presenting and you ask the questions, you're going to probably have to count because your personality is going to be to jump in and answer the question yourself. The dominant personality that you have and people don't understand can be misconstrued as arrogance. Do not assume when you're in a situation or a meeting that the quiet person in the room doesn't know more. That person may be the person in charge and you just don't even realize as you step in to do your pitch and you're focusing on the dominant person. Come to find out, dominant person's main job is to get coffee for the meeting. You didn't know that. You thought that was the person signing the check. No, the person signing the check is a little quiet one in the corner. So you do need to be aware of that when you get into a room. And I think that's a great idea of just saying, look, I don't want to come off as a know-it-all. My personality is a dominant personality, so I tend to probably to speak up more so than others. And that helps. But I can tell you, it's about social IQ more than anything else. And understanding that and being sensitive to that and make a big difference. I see the same thing in sports where, if you don't work well with your teammate, the teammate stops passing to you. Everybody know what I'm talking about? And then the field starts, infighting more than anything else. And before you know it, the game's over. The other team has got you fighting. Any time that I would play and I see the other team starting to argue with one another, I say, oof, it's over now. How many of you, when you eat chicken wings, that's one of my favorite things to eat, by the way, chicken wings. Chicken wing is difficult to eat because it's got so many bones in it. But how many of you eat the bones? I don't know about you, but I don't. So I want you to eat the chicken and spit out the bones. As you read to answer the question. I see people oftentimes when you guys are reading stuff to me off your computer, what do? You go like this. Because the thing is so small you can't read it. Make it as big as possible. That will help you to read aggressively. It'll help you to find the content in there that's really important to read. Trying to teach you how to do aggressive analysis. Because when you get out in the work world and you're trying to, as a VC, decide, what am I going to invest in? Or if you are one of those companies that buys companies, how do you discern what to buy and what not to buy? You have to learn how to do research quickly and decide what's important and what's not. The more you do this during the semester, the easier it should be. And 10 years from now, when you're doing this on your job, please shoot me an email and say, got it, I understand it's working. One of the first things I do, I'll look at the title, look at the date. When I look at the date, the first thing I'm trying to think in my mind as I'm preparing for the class is what is the historical context, the date, and the month that is published. To check out our podcast archive, suggest show topics, and advertise on the show, and to book me as a guest and or speaker, visit our website, www.fredopie.com. That's www.fredopie.com. For information about advertising on the show, please email us at fdopie@gmail.com. That's fdopie@gmail.com. Thanks for listening and be good.